Hey, everybody, before the episode begins, I just want to give you a little bit of a spoiler warning. We talked about a couple of other movies in this episode that we spoiled. So if you haven't seen either Christopher Nolan's The Prestige or The Tourist, starring Johnny Depp and Angelina Jolie, you may want to wait to listen to this episode until you've seen those movies. The Prestige, you should definitely see if you haven't seen it. It's a great film. The Tourist, you could probably skip that one. It's not as good, but we do spoil both of them in this episode. So just wanted to give you a little warning. Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Cinema Heroes. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm Jay Stu.
And today we're talking about Constantine, City of Demons. The movie, according to the Blu-ray cover. I think it's kind of funny that they added that. Don't know if that was necessary, but released in 2018, directed by Doug Murphy, written by J.M. DeMatteis, and starring Matt Ryan, Laura Bailey, Jim Meskimen, and the always recognizable Kevin Michael Richardson as a couple different characters. This is this is technically part of the New 52 universe, but it's not a movie that I feel like you necessarily have to watch. We're kind of working our way up to Justice League Dark Apocalypse War, and Matt Ryan plays Constantine in that movie, played Constantine in Justice League Dark, and then got his own movie, Constantine City of Demons. But like I said, this was actually the first time I had seen this movie, and it's not something that I feel like is required viewing before you see Justice League Dark Apocalypse War. But it is cool that they gave him his own movie, and it is a rated R animated film with lots of violence and blood and some language and some other stuff. So, Stu, like I said, this was my first time seeing it, but not for you. What did you see when it came out, and what did you think about it?
I saw it. It wasn't right when it came out. It was a little bit after it came out, and I mean, it was Constantine, so I expected it to be very, very dark. That being said, I didn't expect them to go as far as they did
right
with this movie. When we were discussing doing this movie, I said this might be the darkest thing that DC's ever done. But I can say without question, this is absolutely the darkest thing that DC's ever done, and I like it. I really like it. I don't love it. There is a particular part of the movie that kind of took me out of it a little bit, but I understand why they did it. But for the most part, I really enjoy this movie. Because it's so dark, it's not a movie that I can watch
very often,
but I typically enjoy myself when I do watch it. This is my fourth time watching this movie, so
oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
It is dark, and because it's rated R, and I looked at the back and it said bloody violence, gore, disturbing images, and some sexual content. I expected it to be pretty dark and for them to kind of push the envelope a little bit, but I think, even went a little bit farther than I was expecting.
Yeah, they balled up the envelope and threw it in the trash. Like.
Right. And it's so interesting to me how far we've come with these animated movies, because I remember when Superman Doomsday came out, they were taught, like, the special features or the interviews, leading up to that release, were talking about how they were like, this had to be a PG-13 movie. It's a violent film with Superman getting him, he's getting beaten to death, basically. Mm-hmm. And I was like, that movie is so tame compared to this movie. It's like,
yeah,
I think they were, at the time, there weren't that many PG-13 animated films. And so it was kind of almost a new thing back in 2007. There were a couple, but there weren't that many.
Yeah.
And then the more that DC started doing these straight to video movies, I think there was probably a demand to kind of go a little bit further with the content. And so I forget what the very first R-rated release was. I don't know if it was The Killing Joke or if it was Justice League Dark. Joke. Was it? Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously there was an audience for it, because they've put out quite a few R-rated releases now. But this one, like you said, I think is the furthest they've gone. This is the darkest DC has gone. But it makes sense for this character. John Constantine is always fighting demons, and it's just dark. The character just is like the atmosphere around him is dark. So it does make sense to make this an R-rated film rather than trying to kind of squeeze it into a PG-13 rating. And I'm glad they went that route. I kind of agree with you. My initial reaction is that I liked it. I thought it was cool, but I didn't love it. It's not a movie. I don't know exactly where it would rank amongst, if I was ranking the new 52 films, I don't know. It'd probably be somewhere in the middle or something, but
yeah.
But I liked it. But I agree with you. It's not a movie that I'm probably going to watch that often.
No, I agree. I think it's somewhere in the middle for me. Maybe the top middle. It's the most unique movie in the DC, in these DC animated universe movies. I know a lot of people say that magic and DC characters don't work. I disagree. I love when they use magic and get a little bit more into the fantasy element, and this just goes all the way. Constantine just goes balls to the wall.
Yeah, I don't mind magic in DC, like with DC characters. There's I know technically Shazam's powers are magic, and then there's like Zatanna and stuff. But Constantine, I like he's kind of a dark, just to make, I don't know, Doctor Strange, I believe, came first, but like, he's kind of like a dark Doctor Strange, which I really think is kind of cool. It's like, I like the Constantine character, and him using magic and stuff, I think that's part of who he is. And so it's never really bothered me. And I like the magic in this movie and everything.
Yeah.
And one of the things I thought was kind of cool about this, which I wasn't expecting, is that it's kind of an origin story a little bit. Constantine, I guess, is just like kind of born with his magical gifts, but we see him as a younger man making a mistake that when he was younger, and trying to save somebody, but and ends up making things worse, and the guilt that he has had to live with that, or with that decision for these past however many years. And so it was interesting seeing him as like a punk rocker. He looked like kind of Billy Idol,
Yeah, I think that's what they was going for.
I think so too, because he looked a lot like Billy Idol. But his bandmate Chaz is the one that's in trouble at the beginning of this movie. His daughter is in a coma, and he comes to John Constantine and tells him that he's seen enough dark magic to recognize it. He's been around Constantine enough to recognize dark magic. And at first, Constantine is like, it may not be magic. It just might be something horrible happened to you, But he gets there and he quickly realizes that, nope, this is dark magic.
Yep.
And I like the storyline. I like that it's a redemption arc for Constantine, with the backstory of him making that decision to. So basically what happens is, like, he's in this band, and there's a guy who has been using his daughter to kind of like almost like a sacrifice for certain spells. So she's just been tortured, essentially, in terms of like,
she's
having
like
these spells work
like a conduit. He's not like, he's not killing her, but like,
right.
Yeah, like you said, he's
but
torturing
he's using
her.
Yeah,
he's using her.
And Constantine summons a more powerful demon to kind of like fight that guy. But in doing that, he doesn't realize kind of what he's doing, and the demon ends up sacrificing that girl, throwing her into a portal, which I guess we find out, she was sent to hell, I think.
Yeah.
And so, of course, Constantine has felt guilty about that for forever. And so the whole movie is kind of this redemption story, trying to save this Chaz's daughter in a way to kind of redeem himself for what he did to that other little girl in the beginning of in the flashbacks. The beginning of the movie, he kind of sees that girl falling into the portal, and it's a nightmare that he's been having and stuff like that. How do you feel in the very beginning? He has a dream about Los Angeles, and he wakes up, and there's all these little like demon Constantines, and it's the like physical representations of his inner demons.
Yeah, I
How'd
thought
you
it,
feel
I
about
thought
that?
it was cool.
Yeah.
It felt very Constantine-y.
Right.
Like if anybody would have, little manifestations of themselves around them, it would be Constantine.
Right.
And then I thought it was funny. I thought it was a pretty good opening scene. He says, "Oh, I must still be dreaming," and one attacks him and like bites his neck. He's like, "Nope, not dreaming." Yeah, I thought
Yeah, I
it was
thought it was
pretty
kind of cool
funny.
too. Yeah. And then it comes into play later, which I thought was actually pretty smart. It wasn't just a
Yeah,
little throwaway thing in the beginning. It was actually, he was able to use it later, which I thought was really cool.
yeah.
Then we're introduced to a new character once he gets to Chaz's daughter, Trish, who's in a
Mm-hmm.
coma in London. And
Mm-hmm.
that's the nightmare nurse who comes and kind of helps Constantine. She's basically, correct me if I'm wrong, she's basically kind of keeping her body alive because her soul is no longer in her body. Her soul is elsewhere.
Yes.
And so obviously the doctors and everything are like, there's nothing we can do. You got to pull the plug basically.
Mm-hmm.
But Nightmare Nurse is able to kind of cast a spell around Trish's body and keep her alive until
Mm-hmm.
they're able to recover her soul.
Mm-hmm.
I like Nightmare Nurse. I thought she just had a cool look to her. Laura Bailey plays her, who, I know Laura Bailey from the very small bit of Critical Role that I've watched. But I thought Nightmare Nurse had kind of a cool look, cool character design.
Yeah, I agree. She and Constantine have some history.
Mm-hmm.
She obviously doesn't like Constantine very much. And in that scene, that's when we get the backstory. She kind of probes the Trish's mom's mind.
Yeah, because Chaz's wife dislikes Constantine as well.
Yes. For good reason. He's not a great guy. And
He's a
bad
flawed
things
character for sure.
Yeah, and bad things always happen when he's around. So
right. Yes.
Yeah, that's when we get the backstory scene. And after that, but after the demon is summoned, but before he throws the other little girl. What's her name again? I forgot.
The other little girl was Astra.
Astra, okay. But before he throws Astra into the portal to hell, this demon wreaks all kind of havoc in this club.
Right. Oh, yeah.
That scene was nuts.
Yeah, it's true.
This dude was biting off heads, ripping people in half, and snapping their necks. It was a brutal, bloody, gory, dark scene. Like that is the scene that I remember the most from this movie. It is crazy.
Yeah. The scene that kind of surprised me with its violence, I guess, is Constantine he eventually realizes he has to go to LA, which, by the way, I should have thought about it. I'd never even considered the title of the movie. LA is known as the City of Angels, and he has to go to LA, and it's called, the movie's called The City of Demons.
City of Demons. Yeah.
Clever. Anyway, he goes to LA and he visits a demon named Berull. I'm sorry. He visits a demon named Berull, and Berull is like showing him kind of his operations, and he shows like this it's supposed to look like old Hollywood. It's like a silent film. Yeah. And it shows these two characters, it shows a couple of characters, but the one that really surprised me was it was like a couple and these demons show up and this one demon just stabs this woman in the neck.
Yeah,
and then like
repeatedly.
She's like, she bleeds and she falls to the ground and he just keeps stabbing her. And I was like, dear God.
Yeah. It was. Yeah, that scene was overkill, and I think that was the point because it's supposed to be so torturous.
Right.
And shocking. But like it's shocking. They's going for the shock value, but like that scene, like you said, it was old Hollywood or supposed to be old Hollywood, but like there was like they had a live action, like actual silent film playing in the background.
Right.
And the demons would throw these people into the silent
film.
Movie.
Yeah.
And then they would get because they were being tortured by dancing nonstop,
right?
And then they would take them off the dance floor and just throw them into that short film, and then they would get tortured in the short film. So something terrible would happen, and then it would say scream.
right. Yeah, you'd see the character.
Yeah. And then something worse would happen, and then it would say louder scream. So like it was super dark, but that scene was also really funny because like you saw, like, you know, when Constantine walks in, you see all these people getting tortured, and one that sticks out, no pun intended, like this guy, I don't know if it was a guy, but this person was like bent over with their butt sticking out.
Oh yeah,
and bats were flying out of their butt.
I remember, yeah.
This movie is strange, to say the least. But given the context, because Constantine says, like, what is this, hell? And Barul says it's a hell. So given that context, I understand why, you know, this movie is so crazy and dark. And that's when we learn that Barul is trying to franchise hell.
And he kind of has competition. And so he knows where Trish's soul is. And he tells Constantine, if you do something for me, then I will help you. Or I don't know if he says he flat out will, like, you know, give Trish back or whatever. Because we do find out that Trish is actually like inside Barul. But he does say, you know, basically, I need your help. And if you help me, then I'll help you. And he wants Constantine to kind of take out some of these other demons that are trying to kind of encroach Barul's business, which I thought was interesting. How do you feel about Barul, the character, the demon?
I liked Barul. I liked Barul all the way up until the
reveal,
the plot twist. And that's where it kind of took me out.
Yeah.
Like,
I like Barul a lot. I thought he's disgusting and he's horrible, but like I loved his character design. I really liked the performance. Jim Meskimen. I was actually surprised to see it was Jim Meskimen. I thought that was kind of cool. Jim Meskimen does a lot of like really great impressions and stuff. He does a great Patrick Stewart. And so I didn't recognize him at all. So seeing him in the castles was kind of cool. But Barul, I thought, was like just a cool character. And I actually thought while watching the scenes with him, I was like, man, if they ever make Constantine 2 with Keanu Reeves, I hope they do more of this stuff, you know, and have kind of these gross looking demons and things like that in it. I think that would be just fun to see in live action. But I agree with you. When the reveal happened, which we can go ahead and say, you know, when it's revealed that it's actually Nergal, the demon that he unleashed in the flashback, with a Barul suit on. That I was a little disappointed by that. I think you could have had Nergal still like pulling the strings and still had Barul be a character. And maybe Nergal comes and kills Barul or something. I don't know. You know, but
that's what I expected to happen. I remember thinking that the first time I watched the movie. I was expecting Nergal to be the one pulling the strings, which he was. But I didn't expect Barul and Nergal to be the same person. And watching it again, it seemed obvious, and I don't really care for it. I just wish that they were separate entities.
I agree. And, you know, it's supposed to be surprising because I think it's after, you can correct me if I'm wrong here since you've seen it more times than me. It's after he brings the like Aztec god, whose name I'm never going to get right. and ends up killing those demons. And then he ends up killing the like Aztec god. That's when the reveal happens, right? Or is it before that?
I think it's before.
It is before. Because I was going to say he like I thought it was when he goes to Barul to be like, it's done. You know, where's Trish? And I think you're right. I think it is before because he goes. It's when Constantine tells him, you know, I need proof that you've got Trish. And Barul pulls Constantine inside of him. And Constantine finds Trish. Trish doesn't really actually know doesn't recognize Constantine, doesn't really know who he is. So she's kind of scared. Nightmare Nurse comes in to because she kind of senses something is happening. She comes in, her and Constantine talk for a second, and then Constantine is like, and Night Nurse are kind of ejected from Barul. And I believe it is in that scene that Barul mentions Astra and the look she had on her face when he threw her into the portal. And it's supposed to be this big, like, what kind of thing. And it just falls flat to me. It doesn't feel like this big jaw-dropping moment, which is what it seems like it was designed to be. So
I think that it falls flat because it's obvious.
Yeah.
But there is no misdirection.
Right.
And that's the thing that's why plot twists are so hard to get right, because logically they're supposed to be obvious, but you're supposed to convince the audience otherwise. I wasn't convinced otherwise. And that, that I think that's why it just feels so lackluster.
Yeah, I agree. Christopher McQuarrie had a great quote years ago talking about his approach to The Usual Suspects and I guess surprise moments in movies anyway. And he said, he's always I don't know if he's written that many movies with surprise moments, but he's basically said, like, when he approaches it, he writes with the mindset of, I hope I can fool the audience. And he says so many movies have these moments that are so obvious and disappointing because the movies don't ask that question. They ask, I hope the audience is a fool.
Right.
And I don't necessarily know if this movie falls into that category, but that has always stuck with me, rather than being like, I hope I can fool the audience versus I hope the audience is a fool.
Yeah. When it comes, like, the two plot twists that come to mind are The Sixth Sense and The Prestige.
Right.
Those are arguably the two greatest plot twists.
Yeah.
And the thing about both of them is that they're logical. It makes sense when you go back and watch it on a second watch. It's obvious. You can't not see the clues the second time. And even after the first watch, without seeing it a second time, but knowing the reveal and just going back and thinking about all the stuff, it's like, yo, they definitely set this up.
Yeah.
But they convinced you otherwise. For example, in The Prestige, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen The Prestige, pause this, go watch it and come back. The big reveal is that Christian Bale's character is a twin. He and his brother have been living a double life for however long just to maintain the illusion. Right. And what Christopher Nolan does is he sets that up in, like, the very beginning of the movie with the Asian guy in the giant fishbowl between his legs. Like, he's living the illusion. That's the trick. He's pretending to be this old man that can't walk. So when he gets on stage and he's waddling, it doesn't seem
strange.
It doesn't seem strange, and that way he can hide the fishbowl between his legs. And then we're experiencing this story mostly through Angier, Hugh Jackman's character. And because he is so convinced that it is not a body double, we don't believe that it's a body double.
Right.
And Michael Caine's character is telling him he's using a double.
Yeah,
like that's the
only way
he
can do that trick.
That's the only way he can do that trick. And Hugh Jackman is not believing it. Like I said, because we're experiencing it through his eyes, that's, that is why we don't believe it. And then when the reveal happens and how it happens, it's amazing. It's amazing because what it does is, like, it reveals the trick, but then it takes it a step further with Angier's character. He has all these body doubles in the bottom of, like, below the stage or whatever. Like, they're just all dead. Like, I love that plot twist. I love it. And I get, this is an animated movie. It doesn't have a whole lot of time to do that. But, when you see it done so well, you kind of you want every movie to do it like that. And it disappoints me because I really like this movie. And for that for a very, very important part of the film to fall flat like that, it's disappointing.
Right. I agree. And I think you said it very well with, when you see it done well, you want all the movies to do it well. And it's
Yeah.
frustrating when other movies don't do it well.
Yeah.
And they try to have this big reveal that just is disappointing. The biggest one that comes to mind, I guess, spoiler alert. I'm not going to necessarily spoil the movie, but I guess I'm spoiling the fact that there is a twist in this movie. But
Mhm.
the Johnny Depp, Angelina Jolie movie, The Tourist. Did you ever see that movie?
No, but you can spoil it.
Well, I've only seen it once, so I don't. It's basically like Johnny Depp is supposed to be kind of this everyman, on vacation or something, and Angelina Jolie is like a spy or a criminal or something, and she's trying to find her husband.
Mm-hmm.
And the big reveal at the end of the movie is that Johnny Depp is the husband. It's like I don't know if he got plastic surgery or something, but it's like he is the person that, is kind of behind these things, even though he's been playing kind of this fumbling, bumbling everyday man. And it just doesn't work. It's just a bad reveal. And Christopher McQuarrie is actually a writer on that film. And he, I think in that same interview talked about how working on that movie was just kind of a nightmare because I don't know if it was just that, but it was not a movie he enjoyed working on apparently. And it's the movie was okay, but the reveal was just bad. It just didn't work. It was really just disappointing. But anyway, back to Constantine. The reveal there, yeah, disappointing. I wish that Nergal had just been a separate character from Barul because I liked Barul. Nergal feels different enough that they should have just been two entities, not the same. Not Nergal wearing a Barul suit.
It reminded me of Men in Black, the Edgar suit.
Right, yeah, exactly. The Queen of Angels. I thought that was kind of an interesting character too. She is basically like
the spirit of Los Angeles.
Yeah, the spirit of Los Angeles. And she can, it can basically take over anybody's body. Mm-hmm. We see her take over like a truck driver, a child. At the very end of the movie, she's a man talking to Constantine in a diner. So she can kind of be anybody and everywhere. She is the soul of Los Angeles, which I thought was really kind of an interesting concept.
Yeah. This movie does a little bit better than other DC movies. DC animated movies have this thing where they have the plot, they have the main plot that gets from point A to point B, but then they have this thing in the middle of the movie that comes out of nowhere. And sometimes it reconnects to the main story, other times it doesn't. This time it happens to reconnect to the main story. So like when she showed up, it didn't feel like it had anything to do
with anything.
With the main story. But then, it reconnects because she's made a bargain with Nergal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do appreciate that they did a better job of reconnecting that plot point to the main thread of the story.
Yeah, I agree. Because you're right. It does feel like it kind of comes out of nowhere and you're not really sure what this character has to do with Constantine or what. She's an interesting character, but you're kind of, it's kind of like, why are you here?
Yeah. One thing that comes to mind is Under the Red Hood when Intergang show up.
Oh yeah.
That always, I love Under the Red Hood.
Yeah.
But that one part always takes me out. It's like, why are they here?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So at least this ties in a little better than that one did.
Mm-hmm.
What's the bargain she made? I think I know. I remember seeing her like it's kind of revealed she's in Nergal's or Barul's home, Nergal, working with Nergal, but I forget what the bargain is she made.
So basically, Nergal wants to franchise all of Los Angeles. He wants Los Angeles to be his own personal hell.
Right.
Queen of Angels is like, no, this is my city. Like you're like, she's dark, but she has a love for the city. She's like, people come here for their hopes and dreams and try to make better lives for themselves. I like that. I want to keep that going. What you're doing is not cool. And she makes a bargain with him to say, okay, you can have this certain amount of people for your hell, but you got to leave everybody else alone. And Nergal wants to employ Constantine to kind of filter people into his hell.
Mm.
But the catch is that Trish will not be released. Trish has to stay.
So not a very good deal.
It's not a very good deal for Constantine at all.
Right.
But, Queen of Angels is like, I gotta sacrifice a few to save the many.
Right. And this is about the time when Constantine ends up summoning that Aztec god Mictlantecutli or something like that. I can't quite get it, but
you almost got it. I think.
almost got it. And that was kind of interesting. He's the one that's on the back cover of the movie, along with some of those little Constantine demons. But this guy right here, that's him. It's out of focus, but yeah, there you go. And so his character was kind of neat. He's basically been living under like a slaughterhouse and feeding off animal carcasses, essentially. So he's not as powerful as he once was, but he does mention to Constantine, he's like, I still am powerful, and threatens to kill Constantine. And Constantine makes a deal with him, takes him to this unconsecrated church where there's quite a few demons, and they get into quite the battle.
Yeah.
That's almost kind of obviously we have the big fight with Nergal, but that's almost kind of like the big third act battle is between the Aztec god. I'm not going to try saying his name again. And those demons, which gets kind of brutal. And then of course, he is wounded. The Aztec god is wounded and is kind of begging Constantine to take him back to that slaughterhouse. And he's like,
nope.
No, man.
He said, there's nothing more pathetic than a begging god.
Right.
Turns him to dust.
So he then has completed what Nergal wanted him to do by getting rid of those demons, right? He goes back to Nergal to try to save Trish. But of course, these demons, they're all a bunch of liars and don't they don't stay true to their word. And so he's not willing to give up Trish so easily.
Right.
So once he goes to Nergal and says it's done, that's when we find out the Queen of Angels is working with Nergal.
Yeah.
That's the one that's revealed.
I see why they called it the movie.
Why?
So this is it was a web series. And they spliced all the episodes together to create a movie.
Ah, okay, that's cool.
Yeah. So it was in two parts. So they put both the episodes together into one movie.
After he uses Mictlantecutli to kill those demons, he goes to visit Nergal. That's where it's revealed that the Queen of Angels is working with him, and she's like, I'm allowing him to do his Hell franchise thing here, but at an acceptable level. And Constantine's like, there's nothing acceptable about this. And we find out that in order for Nergal to operate, he's got to keep Trish kind of inside him, which upsets Chaz. Chaz is going to try to use like a stick on Nergal to beat him, and Nergal's like, you hurt me, you hurt your daughter. And so Chaz storms off. And Nergal basically tells Constantine, I need you to work for me, and you will work for me. Otherwise, Trish, I'm going to harm Trish.
Yeah.
And Constantine doesn't really agree to it, goes off to a bar, gets drunk, gets thrown out of the bar. And then I guess to kind of avoid Nergal, he throws a trash can through the bar window, which gets him arrested, and he's in jail. Because when the cop shows up to say you've made bail, he's like, tell Nergal he's like, I'm fine where I am. But it's actually Chaz who busted him out, or bailed him out, not busted him out. And he's like, you are going to get my daughter back.
Yeah.
So they go to a hospital, and I can't remember exactly why they have to go to a hospital, but he summons Nergal. He pours salt around and cuts into his arm, does a whole spell.
Yeah.
Summons Nergal, and Nergal shows up and basically is like, what do you want? I'm about to meet with a producer. I'm pitching a musical idea.
I remember that. Yeah.
This is kind of Constantine's last resort. because he realizes that what he's got to do in order to get Trish back is going to take a lot. And so he asks Chaz, like, are you willing to sacrifice everything to save your daughter? And Chaz is like, yes, of course. So Constantine does I can't remember the exact name of the curse. Camdever curse.
Yeah.
And we don't really know what it is exactly, but he grabs onto Chaz, does the curse, and summons this power kind of into Nergal, which starts eating him kind of alive from the inside out. And Constantine explains that he used Trish and Renee's love for Chaz against Nergal. And because Nergal is a demon, love is like poison. It's cancerous to a demon. And of course, Nergal starts trying to bargain, just like the Aztec god did. He's trying to bargain. He's like, stop this. And I'll save Astra. I'll show you where Astra is. You can save Astra. You can redeem yourself. And at first, for half a second, Constantine seems like he's thinking about it.
Yeah.
And Chaz is like, don't do it, John. And of course, John decides not to do it. He says, this is redemption enough. He destroys Nergal. We see Trish's like soul floating there. Chaz is able to, he kind of goes and like cradles her face, although his hands pass right through her.
Yeah.
But we find out that she's fine. Her soul goes back to her body. She's okay. Now, this is a part of the movie that actually, it's kind of a downer, but I really liked it.
I like it too, because they set it up at the beginning of the movie, and I loved it. I loved it.
We find out that curse, the sacrifice made for that curse, is they used Trish and Renee's love for Chaz, which means that they no longer have. They no longer have that love for Chaz. They don't even remember him.
Yeah.
And of course, Chaz is upset about this. And as he's like yelling at Constantine, he like can't remember Constantine's name. And we learn that he's like, it wasn't quite enough to kill Nergal, so I had to use some of your love for me, basically.
Yeah.
And he's like, and now you're not, you'll remember that some arrogant British guy helped save your daughter, but that's all you're going to remember.
Yeah.
And while he's sitting there, Chaz is like,
can't remember your name.
Yeah. What is your name? And then, he tells him John Constantine. He's like, well, that's a name I hope I never hear again. And he storms off and leaves. Yeah. And I love the whole concept of that, number one, but also just the fact that Constantine is so much of like, there's so many times where he's called selfish and, only cares about himself, but then he does things like this, which inevitably, like as a result pushes people away. They literally can't remember who he is. And so he is alone. But it's one of the things I love about this character and how he does do selfless acts. Yeah. But it's like, it just makes him that much more of
it's tragic. Yeah.
Yeah. It's tragic. He's a tragic hero, I guess, which I really like.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I got the music was by Kevin Ripple, or I don't know how you say his name. And I only noticed it at the end of the film after Nergal is destroyed. There's like some kind of piano music that plays while Trish's soul is kind of floating there. And I liked that music. The rest of the music didn't really stand out to me, so I can't really say whether or not I thought it was good or bad or anything like that. It was just, I didn't really notice it.
It didn't stand out to me because the contents of the movie were so, for me, they were just so engaging because it was so shocking and strange. Right. That I wasn't really paying attention to the music, but I'll have to, the next time I go back and watch this movie, I'll listen more intently to the music.
Yeah, me too. Voice acting, I thought everybody, Matt Ryan, of course, is excellent as Constantine. He was born to play Constantine, it seems like.
Yeah.
And everybody else I thought was pretty good. I especially liked Barul, and I thought Nergal was fine, but Barul kind of was the standout demon to me anyway.
No, I agree.
All right, well, let's go into a rating. What would you rate Constantine City of Demons, the movie?
I really like this movie, and I want to give it a higher rating than what I'm going to give it. But because the plot twist falls flat and kind of takes me out of the rest of the movie, I'm gonna give it 3.5. 3.5 Constantine inner demons out of 5.
That's exactly what I was going to pick, was Constantine demons.
Yeah.
I'm on the same page as you. I really like this film. I thought it was a fun watch,
Mhm.
but I didn't love it. And I think part of that is just the Nergal twist and stuff like that, like you just mentioned. So I'm going to go same score, 3.5 Constantine inner demons out of 5. It's a movie that I probably will watch again, but not soon.
Yeah, you got to forget about it for a while, because it's
exactly. Yeah.
There's a lot going on in this movie.
right. But not a bad addition to the new 52.
Not at all.
Set of movies. So
not at all.
Well, we'd love to know what you think of Constantine City of Demons. Do you agree with us or disagree with us? You can let us know at cinemaheroes.com. Our Instagram is @cinemaheroes. You can always comment on any of our posts. If you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment down below, give the video a thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I think that about wraps it up for this episode, though. I'm Justin Speck.
I'm Jay Stu.
As always, thanks for listening. Thanks for subscribing.